Hello and welcome to what is a very special episode of the SwanBank podcast. Today we've got something a little bit different for you. Today we're going to be hearing some interviews with a number of people from around the life of our church. And they're going to be sharing a bit of their experience of what it's like to be part of the church over this past year. As some of you will be aware, we are almost a year to the day since our first online service. Since all of those regular church activities, our worship services, our small groups, our kids and our youth work all moved online. So we wanted to take the opportunity to hear from some of the people who've been involved in that, to get their perspective, to hear where they've seen God move and what they've learned from that experience. And so later on, we're going to hear from Rachel Edelston, our youth worker, and Alice Mashanga, who's our kids worker, about what that's been like. We're going to hear from George Bowden and Rob Tunnicliffe, who've been helping out in the office, so they're going to be sharing a bit of that experience. But first up, we have the absolute legend that is Russ Coppock. Russ is somebody that helped us right at the beginning with moving worship online. So here's Russ to share a little bit about what that experience was like and some of the challenges that came with having to move all of our worship online. Well, I'm joined by the very wonderful Mr. Russell Coppock. Russ, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Sam, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Very good. You are sat in your studio, a space that I recognise and I've spent much time in with you over the past year. So I wonder if you would just take your mind back to this time, pretty much a year ago to the day, when we began filming online worship for the first time. You, I have to say, were a bit of a lifesaver in that early month or so, because we were literally scrabbling around, wondering what to do. And I think I jumped on the phone to you and said, Russ, please, will you help? And you said, yes, let's do something. What was that, those first few weeks? Just tell us a bit about what that was like from your perspective.
So from our perspective, it's quite interesting, because at the exact same time as you were ringing us up going, can you help us? Because for most people know, most of our work is event management. We lost 2 years worth of work in 2 weeks. Yeah. So we'd kind of, all the events we had planned for that year and for this year just disappeared overnight. So there was a moment of, okay, let's see what we could do. Now, we've been doing live streaming for a number of years anyway. So it was, and we have the studio here in Newcastle set up for doing that. So when you guys came on and said, we need to be able to do something that's quite universal, can work for a number of churches, and producing some content that's kind of really simple and easy for people to follow. Because a lot of people, because that was the other thing, was not a lot of people were used to doing online church. Not just churches, but people weren't used to being part of an online church. So we didn't want to overcomplicate it and do that. But knowing most of the guys now who were part of that team, so you, Catherine, Alison, Peter, and then Peter. Coming, lovely Peter. Best dad jokes in the world, Peter. It's great. And then being able to record some worship with you guys as well and do that, it was really nice. And it was a nice pleasure for us to be able to kind of work with you guys. And we did it for quite a number of months.
We did. So we started, so the 22nd of March was our first online service. And we recorded with you every Sunday up until the 30th of August, I think. So that's like 5 months worth of services of you putting up with us not having a clue about how to talk to a camera or anything like that. How frustrating was it for you working with us through and teaching us how to do all that stuff?
Frustrating's not the word I would use. I think it's great, to be honest, because we're all friends, really, aren't we? And we're all part of the same church group. And I think it was more of a teaching for you guys to be able to kind of do that. Right, look at the camera, but your audience is the camera. Oh, and at the same time as while you're talking, you will have no reaction from anybody, so you don't know if you're doing a good job. You don't know if you're making sense. So
all we had was James, a guy who works with you, James, who not much experience of church, but was thrown into having to listen to 2 sermons a week every time we filmed. Bless him.
He was good, and he was doing some of the editing. Yeah, he was doing some of the editing for us as well by the end. My favourite's Amy, because she can she just perfectly plays innuendo bingo without really knowing it. So there's a couple of times you can even hear me laughing on the recording from the studio the back gallery room into there, because she was like, "What have I said?" Don't worry about it. It's fine. I think if you were to look back at the very beginning,
Yeah, it's
which
quite a
was
painful
very
watch.
rushed,
It's quite a painful watch.
it was not. None of us really knew what we needed to deliver quickly.
I mean, they announced it on the Monday, and we filmed it on the Friday, and it was out on the Sunday. So it was a proper, we just need to get something out and going, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, some weeks we tried to film 2 weeks in advance, so that it gave you guys a bit of a rest on a Sunday, so that you could be part of the service as well, rather than just worrying about recording every week. 1 week we did 4 weeks.
We did. That was tough. That was I don't know whose idea that was, but it was a bad idea.
But do you know what it was? It was my fault, because I had to go to another event. So I was like, if we could just do these 4 weeks, this would be really good.
Well, like by Easter week, we did 3 services in 4 days, didn't we? So we had to film sometimes weeks and weeks in advance. It was it was a whole learning curve, the whole thing, really.
Yeah. But what's been really nice to see is while SwanBank has been doing the kind of stuff back in the main church area, bits of the format have stayed the same. Because it works. And the way and what's been really nice to see is all those people still coming together and still hosting on a service, whether it's a band or whether it's whatever. Those people are still working together, and that's really nice to see. And for me, knowing that came out of coming here through the studio, that's really nice.
It's awesome, because you can see the real progression, can't you? Like, I've spent a lot of time, certainly this week, as I've been reflecting on the past year, going back and watching some of the old stuff, and you can really see the growth. And there was a real nervousness to start with, and as soon as we started to find our feet, you start to see some creative stuff coming out, and it's all becoming a bit more fun, I think. I think that's one of the things you were really good at, is just helping us to relax into the space a bit and just to try and enjoy it a bit more.
And you can't jump straight into full on, because it wasn't what you guys were ready for.
No.
But it was those little bits every so often, like the balloons. I've still got the raw footage of the balloons, of trying these balloons to just appear from nowhere, and you and Amy just failing miserably to get it on time.
So I was lying on the floor trying to hold down, what was it, 4 or 5 helium balloons. It just didn't end very well, did it?
No. But when you look at the final thing,
it looks
really
great.
Well.
It took us a whole afternoon to do, but it looked great.
But it's like, because when we were doing the worship stuff as well, because we film different worship bits here, and we do other stuff for bands here as well. Worship's slightly different, with it being very lyrical and follows. You don't use words. You know the songs. So if you get 2/3 of the way through the song and you mess it up, we go back to the beginning and start again. And you can just see Chris came down to help one day, and Tom was doing some cajon stuff as well. They were really fun days, because there was just a bit. But again, it's tiring for you when you've done 8 songs in a go. It's like, do you want a cup of tea and something else to go in the tea? But yeah, those were all really good points, and like I say, it was good to do.
And you were in charge of making sure it got streamed out on a Sunday morning, weren't you? So you were sat probably in that chair at that computer, streaming it out every Sunday morning. What was that like the first few weeks? Because I guess you were looking through comments and all sorts of things as well, weren't you? And
so we don't particularly, when we're streaming, we don't generally do premieres, because people know it's a premiere, people switch off for it. We'd rather be here, push play on something, and it goes out live. The other thing was, we were streaming to 5 different channels at once. So most people are going to get stressed with going to like YouTube once, when you're going to 3 YouTube channels and 2 Facebook channels. And some weeks it didn't start working until 2 or 3 minutes beforehand. Everyone would be texting going, "Have a good morning, everyone. Are we all working?" Nope. Give me a minute. But we never failed. And again, that never failed. There are always issues with with our kind of suppliers and the way that we do that. But you get that now, still every Sunday now, because so many churches go live on a Sunday. The internet or Facebook just goes, okay. So we would come in here, and we basically do it from the desk behind me, push play, make it streaming on those. But you are monitoring those sort of or each channel for its own comments, one to make sure that everyone's working. But the way we do it, it has a failover. So even if a channel goes down, we can restart it without affecting everybody. What was fun was Harry used to come in with me.
Yeah.
On the
Lovely
weekends,
Harry.
he would. So I would sit and do the video, and I'd get him teaching him how to do the fader. So bit more level, Harry, bit down a bit.
Oh,
he has no idea what he was doing,
Yeah.
but he's like, he knows how to ride this fit. But again, coming in each Sunday, and then because we have a WhatsApp group for all the worship stuff, which is really nice. So it's kind of getting the feel from how people, each church, because it's trying to manage it for 3 different churches, as it was really, or wider. Each church kind of can receive it slightly differently. Like SwanBank has a massive number of comments on Facebook before it starts, where some of the other churches might get hello. And but that's fine, because that's the way that their church goes. What was interesting early on with all of this as well, when the Methodist Church said, we know you can't meet, here are some of the online churches that you can involve, we were one of the 3 that they suggested. So the Stoke-on-Trent district was one of the 3, alongside Westminster Central Hall and Wesley Chapel. 3 all very different online services. We've got a virtual studio environment down in London because they're not allowed to go in their church. Full stop. So they then eventually went back into being in chapel. And then you've got Wesley Chapel, which is very high church traditional sort of thing. So we weren't getting just people from all over Stoke and Newcastle and Staffordshire. We were getting hellos from all over the country.
The numbers were quite remarkable at the beginning, weren't they? And actually stayed fairly consistent all the way, which was amazing for me. Really.
Monday, Thursday was the lowest one I think we ever had. But everything else just instantly shot up and kind of continue to grow week on week. Different churches have different things as well, because some churches would then have like Zoom calls and things like that. So. But no, it was good. And I think you've maintained all that as well. If not grown on it with what you're doing now, because while you're back in church as a general kind of environment, you can have a more interactive live, and you've got more people, you've got camera ops and you've got sound ops and you've got things like that, where we were doing it under, you can't have more than 3 people in a room.
Because that was the thing at the beginning. We were coming in and like literally on our own, filming our little bit and then going away, and then the next person would come in and film their little bit. So it was a really, for the presenters, it was really tough to sort of get a good flow going, and it was a tough challenge, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and that's the thing, isn't it? You've got one person who might have stayed in the corner and watched it so they could bring it all together, but it's like bringing little news articles and then bringing it all and making one big package. It doesn't always work very well as a flow, certainly not for a church service. Because at the end of the day, you have to remember you're delivering an act of worship. It's pre-recorded. The worship might have been 10 songs might have been filmed in one go. But it's still an act of worship that you're trying to lead people at home with. And that's hard to do through a TV. It takes the requirements of the viewer to be able to use it as an act of worship as well. But it's been lovely to see that everyone was able to do that, certainly within the church people that we know.
And since you've stopped working with us on a regular basis, there's been all sorts of other churches that you've been helping to get started with live streaming as well, hasn't there? What's that been like?
What we have started recently doing, which is we were just about to do our second one, we've started an online Zoom meeting for churches who are doing live streaming.
Oh, interesting.
There's a website called livestreamingworship.co.uk. And basically, because we were getting so many different questions, we've created this kind of almost monthly meeting now where a real mix of people come on to this meeting, come and talk about what they kind of want to achieve in their streaming, and we try and help them. So we've got another one in a couple of weeks. You can go to the website and sign up for the Zoom meeting. We're not charging, it's free. It's just us giving out our knowledge and information and being able to help the churches know, whether that's getting them kit for installs, doing an install for them, or just going, well, here's a creative idea, whatever. The next one for us is we're doing the day event for ECG conference. We're doing that from the studio here. So we're going to get people to watch that as a kind of higher level streamed event. And then we'll come back together after, have a conversation and go, right, what bits of this did you like? What would you like to use in your church? And this is how you do it.
Awesome.
So, but yeah, if anybody is interested about that, let us know. Because it's not just for techie people. It's
Yeah.
pastors, worship leaders we just want to ask a couple of questions, and it's just an open forum for people to do that. And we want to kind of continue that as well moving forward when we go back from a unlockdown sort of situation.
Yeah. Awesome. We've chatted quite a lot about your perspective from like a professional lens, talking a bit more personally, because you're part of the life of our church. You're a well-loved member of SwanBank. What has it been like for you personally to be involved in that whole journey of approaching worship online for your church? What's that been like?
That is a really good question. The online stuff has allowed people who say, for instance, I'm a member of SwanBank, you can look at what other people are doing and gain, whether it's a podcast or a worship service or whatever, you can see what other people are doing, and be able to receive through that. That's where the online stuff has opened that up as a kind of a much wider for everyone to see. But I think what's also nice in a local church environment is having that regular act of worship. I miss playing in the band. Because that's my act of worship. That's me being able to not only give to the people in the room with a few bum notes here and there, but that's my act of worship. And I miss that because that's my way of being able to focus with removing the distraction side. You've got to look for when you and me are playing together, because when we both know we've both made a bum note, there's this little sort of, right? Or you kind of turn around going, yeah, I don't know what that was. But it's always very subtle, like just randomly leaning around and smacking on the cymbal. It's like, what did you do that?
Love it.
I think everyone has their own way that they worship within their church environment. And I think however much the online stuff is great and it's vital for us as a business, people will look forward to doing that. I think that will just take some time for that to go back. I think the online stuff is always with us now because it has to be.
For sure. Well, Russ, thank you so much for your time today. What I will say is we are completely indebted to you for your help, your support, your encouragement over the last year. Not only in helping us in the studio, but now as we've started to explore our own live stuff at SwanBank, the amount of volunteers that we are using now who've had some sort of experience or training from you and been part of events with you in the past, that has helped them to become really competent and capable volunteers with us now is quite astounding, really. So we are incredibly grateful to you and all that you've done. So Russell, thank you very much. We love you very much. You are appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
So good to hear from the amazing Russell Coppock. We're really grateful not only for him giving his time to us for this podcast, but also for all the help he's given us over the past year with live streaming worship. It really has been super appreciated. We're going to hear now from the wonderful Alice and Rachel, who are just going to share a little bit of their experience of kids and youth work during this coronavirus season. So, Alice and Rachel, here we go. I'm joined on this very special episode of the SwanBank podcast by Rachel Edelston and Alice Mashanga. Are you both well?
Very well, Samuel. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, well, we're so excited to be on here. Thank you for asking us.
It's not like we had to lock Alice in this room to do it with us.
Alice is not very happy about being
quivering in the corner.
We've basically been on a journey over the last year of getting Alice to do something in front of a camera on a stage. And this is, I feel like, a good stepping stone to get you there.
This is definitely a stepping stone, but we don't know how many stones it will take, Sam.
If you listen to this podcast and you want to see Alice presenting on a Sunday morning or a Sunday evening, please send us an email.
Please don't.
And we'll continue the campaign.
We should start a poll on the Facebook page.
I don't think we
let's
should.
do that.
I don't think it's necessary.
A petition, get Alice in the worship band.
No thanks.
Singing on stage. That's what we want.
As part of today's special episode, looking back at the past year, we're going to chat to Rach and Alice just a little bit about their experience of being part of the staff team here and ministering to kids and young people across the past year. But before we do that, I normally ask Catherine what exciting things have been going on for her this week. She has left us, abandoned us this week to fend for ourselves. So, Alice and Rach, anything exciting going on in your lives this week that you want to share with the massive SwanBank podcast audience?
I mean, I think Alice has some pretty exciting news for us all.
Yeah, I mean, I think my husband's going through a midlife crisis. Hopefully he's not listening, but if he is, I think you are. I think lockdown
we love Sim.
Lockdown has had a huge impact on him. He's decided to buy everybody a saxophone.
Wow.
So he's going to learn.
Great.
So maybe we could invite him up onto the stage if we have a talent show or something.
Hey, that's an idea.
You know, so he's ordered a saxophone. It's arrived today, and he sent me a photo.
Great.
So yeah, that's exciting.
So the next big family SwanBank quiz extravaganza, bin off the kazoos, just Sim on the saxophone
all the way.
You know, Sim is still in my phone as Sim the Spy Mashanga.
Oh my god!
Ever since we first met.
So,
Rach, what about you?
Oh gosh.
We should say that you're in the midst of trying to plan a wedding at the moment, which is just not super fun, is it?
Not fun, no. When Boris can't make his mind up about things. But other than that, I am currently in the process of renovating a fireplace, which is very exciting. I think I may have lead poisoning and inhaled lots of steel wool. But other than that,
you're fine.
It looks really good, so I'm happy with that.
Amazing. Great stuff. Rach, why don't you tell us a bit about what this past year has been like? You started as our youth worker in January.
Yeah.
So you had about 10 weeks or something of being able to do normal youth work in our normal pattern, and then you were just thrown into this Let's Learn How to Do Youth Ministry Online. Just tell us a bit about that journey, what it was like at the beginning, what you've learned.
I mean, it's been a lot, Sam, not gonna lie. Yeah. It's been quite intense. I'd literally just got into a pattern that I was happy with, where I finally felt settled. I'd got to know the kids from all the different youth groups, and I was really happy. And then Boris makes his announcement and we go into lockdown. So that was like, I remember me and you suddenly deciding we need to do like 3 live streams a week that Tuesday, and we decided we were cancelling youth club and we're going to do a live stream there and then that day. Something to do with toilet roll, I don't really know. You were also living at our house at that point, which was just a bizarre like.
Oh gosh. It was a lot for you to deal with, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How did you find living with Alicia and I?
I mean, it was lovely. You and Alicia are great. I played lots of games of bananagrams on my own.
Not with anyone. We were talking about this earlier, weren't we?
Yeah. No, on my own, so I got very good at that. But it was also living with Chris as well.
Yeah, that's true. We had a bit of a house full at that point, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was a weird week for us all.
Strange week.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I went back to Bury, where I'm from, and lived with my mum and dad for a bit. So that was strange in itself.
So not only were you learning how to do youth work in a new way, but you weren't even doing it from Stoke, you were doing it from your mum and dad's house.
Yeah, so it was all completely remotely.
Yeah.
And what we decided to do, and I genuinely have no idea how we managed to do this for so long, is that we did 3 Instagram lives a week.
A week, yeah. Can you remember the theme tune?
Live at 5! Live at 5! Everybody, it is live at 5!
This is a theme tune. We didn't come up with that at the beginning. No. It sort of just morphed over time. Didn't it?
Yeah. So each of these live streams are like at least half an hour long. Yeah. We did so much ridiculous.
You did some crazy stuff.
Oh my goodness.
It was great though. So you and Tom did a Bible study every Tuesday, which was great actually, which was really good. And then you and Joel did some stupid challenges on a Thursday night.
Yeah, I've had all sorts of foods all over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Got mustard in my eye one week. That wasn't fun.
Proudest moment.
Oh god.
Yeah. As much as it was like a lot, and it was really stressful, and a big achievement, I filled an entire notebook in those 3 months just of live at 5 things. But I really, really enjoyed it, just being able to connect with all those young people so regularly, and them, especially at the start, they were putting so much of their energy into it as well, and it was actually really life-giving at the start.
Yeah. And they were in a tough spot themselves because they were in such a in-between place with not knowing what was going on with school. Some of them were waiting to hear whether exams would be cancelled, or big things going on for them as well. So
and a lot of our youth at that point were in what would have been their final year of the group as well. So they were all anxious about whether they would ever be back at the group again, and whether they could all celebrate together and things like that. So it was scary, as much as it was life-giving, I guess. But as it went on, as people, we talk a lot about like digital fatigue by the time we get to like June, July time, and everyone's kind of had enough of Zoom. I mean, we can all relate to that now. A year of Zoom is just
a lot.
A lot. But something that I've really learned throughout this time was just how important community was, how much the youth engage so much more with each other, and they can learn from each other so well. Like we did this, what did we call it? It was was it 5-minute, 60-second testimonies or something? Where for a few weeks we just got a different member of the youth to share their testimony from either a time during lockdown or just their life testimony, and we had some really powerful conversations that came out of that, and it was really special, and I really treasured those conversations really, and just I'm just so impressed with the youth that they've dealt with so much over this last year. Like we've just said, all the stuff that's going on with school, normal just teenage problems which we all dealt with at some point. It's just a lot to handle, and the fact that they're all still standing.
It's just... and they're all still friends.
They're all still friends.
That never happens in normal time, let alone.
So, a huge shout out to them. I'm just so proud of them all, because they've just been amazing through the whole thing, and they've been so supportive of me as well. Like, it is really, really hard for a whole year churning out like creative, engaging things online.
Most of which involves making some sort of fool of yourself.
Definitely,
as well.
Sam's got a few compilation videos of all my idiotic videos. But they've just been so supportive, and I love them all to bits. So I can't say anything bad about them. They're just wonderful.
Good. I'm sure you can think of some bad things to say about them.
Maybe.
But before you go down there, let's come to you, Al.
Quick escape.
Yeah. Now we talked about Rach planning a wedding during this year. I mean, you had a baby in last January.
In January, yeah.
So not only have you were on maternity leave for the first bit of lockdown, but I mean, just tell us a little bit about what it's been like dealing with two young kids and a sim.
And a sim,
at home.
More importantly, a sim.
Just what has this last year been like for you?
So the year kicked off, it was crazy. So Anaya, who's my youngest daughter, she was born 2 weeks early. So so that was a big surprise. So after coming out of hospital, we had a couple of weeks at home. I wasn't really able to go out or anything like that. Then Boris announces this lockdown, and I was thinking, oh, it's going to be fine, because it's just going to be like Sim's got extended paternity leave. But little did I know, around the corner was, it was really tough, because I couldn't send Eden to nursery, because even though I was classed as a key worker, I was on maternity leave, so she wasn't a priority, and we weren't really sure about this virus, or so we made the decision to keep her at home, and I homeschooled whilst raising another baby as well. So it was really tricky. So I remember meeting up with Sam and saying, when can I come back? When can I come back? Little did I know what was ahead. So we agreed, didn't we, sort of June time, and then we just kicked off by planning a virtual colour splash.
You pretty much went straight into
just went straight into it. So because I didn't really know anything about like the virtual world or whatever you call it. So we'd got Facebook online, virtual Sunday school. I'd done a few videos, through Rachel. So it was just a huge learning curve, really.
Yeah. Because with that first Colour Splash holiday club, we didn't really have a clue what we were doing, did we?
Not really.
I think we basically got a group of people together, put them in various people's gardens to film. Random videos.
More videos
most of which
me making
involved
Rachel,
dressed up
why not?
in some way. You on a boat is my highlight. With Tom all doing a French accent.
Can we just shout out to Tom in the different accents? Like, that is a true talent.
Yeah, that came from nowhere. I don't think anybody was expecting that, to be fair.
So Colour Splash, it was awesome to plan, and, we reached so many children. I think we gave out about 65 packs.
Yeah.
So, like, a group of us went around the city and hand-delivered those, so that was really exciting. And it's been exciting, but obviously I guess like what Rachel's saying about this sort of virtual fatigue and stuff like that, it is tiring because each week we're doing Sunday school videos. I've got a group of great volunteers who help out with that,
and you're working with people across the circuit.
We're doing more cross sort of circuit stuff, which has been awesome, and we did a virtual half-term holiday club as well. So it's been a huge sort of learning curve. It's obviously not the same as direct work with families and children. I miss going into school so much, which a lot of my work was, even doing like after school clubs or messy church, just all those things that have sort of been stripped away because I'm a real people person. So if anything, that's been sort of really hard to sort of convey online. Like you can't build those relationships, you can't form those attachments. So I sort of said goodbye to people at Christmas. I'll see you like at summertime, and I haven't seen them. So it's like, you know, so I sort of said my goodbyes, and we've missed out. Children have left toddlers and have gone to started school. And we've missed all of that, missed all the parties and things like that. So it's been really tough, but
and you talk about things like Little Treasures and the Messy Church. If you're ever around SwanBank on a Tuesday morning when toddlers is happening, or on a Saturday, just the buzz around the building is
incredible.
It's amazing, isn't it? And there's such a feeling of family, which you are so good at creating that sense of being family and everyone being included and loved, and that's something that you just can't recreate, I suppose, isn't it?
Definitely, you can't. Although you are obviously reaching a number of families and they're tuning in, it's not the same as them physically being here in your presence, talking with them, interacting. It's not the same sharing a meal with them. It's completely different. So you know, that's been really sad. But hopefully, we've just got to look at things, and when things can sort of reopen, we can perhaps look at. It's taught me, if anything, just how much we value being in fellowship with each other and in the presence of each other and worshipping together. All of that is so important. You know, it's been really missed.
Great.
Yeah.
One more question for both of you. I've not prepped you for this, so feel free to hate on me afterwards. What is the thing you're most excited about as we come back to normal and you're able to see the kids and families, young people that you're working with? What is the thing you're most excited for as we start to return to some sort of normal?
I mean, anyone that's been to the group knows just how chaotic it is on a normal Sunday night.
That's a good word to use.
Chaos. Absolute chaos. I mean, the week before we went into lockdown, we played a massive game of Pandemic.
Predicting something.
Across the whole church.
Basically, that involves playing tag around church, isn't it? A mixture of tag and tag rugby, really, around the building.
And it's just like the most lively, chaotic. I can't even describe how amazing it is and the atmosphere that it generates. And I've just, as much as our Zooms and our live streams have been crazy, I've just missed the silly comments from Chris and Joel that everyone suddenly starts laughing at, and like all the kids just having so many like jokes with each other and just really nice conversations. And I've just really missed that fellowship, like Alice was talking about, and being together and just getting up to things that you'd never expect to be doing. Like, we do all sorts of things at the group, so I'm just so excited to be back in the building and doing all sorts of crazy challenges all together, experiencing life together.
Great.
Just so excited.
Love that. What about you, Al?
Yeah, I think it's similar. So all the sort of groups that I'm missing out on, I just can't wait. I can't wait for Messy Church to start. Toddlers, even though that can be quite chaotic, you know, crazy.
Toddler's toast. There's nothing better on a Tuesday morning.
Toddler toast, of course. How can I forget that? And just, I know a lot of it will be around food, so obviously the food at Messy Church as well. Picking up the cookery club and so just being with people, really. I really miss it. And that's what I'm really excited about, is just seeing people, hearing laughter around the church, and just it being full again. Back to whatever normal is, whatever that's going to be.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining me this week. Catherine might not make it back onto this because I've had such a good time with you pair. You have both done a stellar job over the past year, so I'm sure across the church people want to say thank you to you. So if you're listening, then let's maybe fill Rachel and Alice's inboxes with nice messages of encouragement, maybe some amusing gifts or something like that. Just let them know that they are appreciated because you have done an ace job. So thank you for just sharing a bit of that with us this week.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
very
us,
much.
Sam. It's been a pleasure, and Catherine, I'm coming for you. You're not coming back on this podcast. It's mine now.
Oh yes, I
Catherine,
love
you
it.
can take my place anytime.
Great stuff.
So good to hear from Rachel and Alice about some of the work they've been doing over the past year. It's been great to watch them grow and develop, to explore new ways of working, and just do a stellar job supporting and encouraging and discipling our children, young people and families through these difficult days. We've got one more little interview to listen to this week. So we're going to hear from Rob Tunnicliffe and George Bowden, who've been helping us out, serving us really faithfully in the office over the past year. So I'll hand over to George and Rob.
I'm now joined by the very wonderful Georgina Bowden. How are you?
Hello, I'm good.
And Robbie Tunnicliffe. How are you, mate?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. We chatted with Rachel and Alice about their experience of the past year, and I just wanted to ask you both a similar question. Obviously, life has been very different for both of you over the past year, so tell us a little bit about what you've been doing around the life of the church for the past year, how you found that, where you've seen God at work, that sort of thing. So, Rob, we'll come to you first.
What I do is I help in the office answering the phone, things like that, and people who ring in will obviously know that because they'll have spoken to me
Indeed.
on numerous
With your
occasions.
lovely phone manner.
I have a
that
great
you've
phone
developed.
manner because it's developed over many years working at the city council. So I then try and help them with or redirect them to somebody who can sort their problems out for them. If I can sort it out, then I normally tend to do it myself nowadays. Although at first I probably asked a few more questions than I do now. I also proofread various things that go out, which have become much easier as we get.
If there's ever a spelling mistake now on anything that we post out in the mail, it's Rob's fault.
It's my fault because I've not checked it properly.
There'll be lots of people who aren't aware of the amount of stuff that gets posted out from this office. So we send out every fortnight, well, every week actually.
Every week.
You sort out a DVD for a group of how many people?
I think it was 18 to start with, but gradually it's now down to 15.
Yeah. But that's a big piece of work, isn't it?
It is a lot of work, and then we also do leaflets to nearly 100 people, which has also gone down. It used to be a bit more than that, which get posted out second-class post to try and save us some money.
So we send out every fortnight. We send out a written worship sheet for
written worship
that covers every Sunday.
It does.
And so Rob dutifully every week not only proofreads it but folds it pristinely. You won't let anyone else do the folding, will you? Because it won't be up to your standards.
It won't.
And then make sure that gets out in time for the Sunday, which is a huge undertaking, isn't it?
It takes me a full day normally. It does,
but lots of people won't even see that.
Most people don't even know that now.
But it has meant that all the way through this time, people, even who haven't been able to access the stream, the online stuff, have still been able to engage in worship together, which is amazing, really.
It is. I don't think it's amazing. It's just something that we as a church thought was right to do. So we do it.
Well, and you've been a very important cog in that big wheel, shall we say.
I'll accept that.
Good. You will. We've loved having you in the office. You've moved from your spot in the corner of the coffee lounge to your spot in the corner of the office.
Yeah, I do miss my coffee, so I'm longing for the time when I can go back to go and do that.
Well, that moves us very neatly on to talk to Georgie.
Hello.
Obviously, you've been on furlough now forever.
Forever. Yeah.
Just tell us a bit of what you've been up to while you've been on furlough, because you've still been very much involved in the life of SwanBank, haven't you, over the past year?
Yeah, I tried to just keep my hand in everything, really. So the first lockdown, I came in like once a week, maybe more than once a week, and answered the phones and just did various jobs for anyone who didn't have time to do other things. I've spent the past year doing shopping for elderly people who can't get out.
Because right at the beginning there was a small team of volunteers from across the church who were doing things like that, but you've been somebody who's been doing that from the very beginning and are still doing that once a week, aren't you?
Yeah.
For people who are vulnerable or can't get out.
Yeah.
Which has been a huge undertaking for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, sometimes it can be a bit... I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
But it's been nice. It's been nice just to see people and to get out the house, really.
Yeah.
To be fair.
And you've been a real support for some of those people you've been doing shopping for.
Yeah, definitely. So. And it's been nice for them as well to be able to see somebody regularly every week. But apart from that, I've just been watching Netflix.
We obviously chatted with Rachel about some youth work earlier on. You started as a helper in our youth work.
Yeah.
Not very long before lockdown, did you? So just give us a bit of your side of what that's been like, being involved in youth groups on Zoom and that sort of thing.
I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Doing everything on Zoom. But again, it's nice to see their faces, and it's nice to watch them grow, even through a screen.
Yeah.
Like some of them just absolutely blow my mind, the things that they come out with. It's just incredible to see their journey with God and throughout this time, and like talk about like how they are journeying through this time.
Great. That's really good. To both of you, what is the thing you're most excited about as we come out of this time of lockdown?
That's fairly simple for me. A, to be able to go and sit down and have a cup of coffee. But
in
B,
the coffee lounge.
In the coffee lounge. But B, to be able to go up to somebody and give them a hug.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. What about you, George?
I am obviously excited about opening the coffee lounge.
Right.
Yay!
Big plans for the coffee lounge
plans
in the
coming
offing.
up.
Yeah. I should say, on a serious note, we are incredibly excited about the coffee lounge and the missional opportunities and just the chance to get our little coffee lounge community back together, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. Get all my regulars back.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from the coffee lounge, I am really looking forward to having a carvery. Honestly, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. The one thing you need to know about the Bowden family is their absolute love for a carvery.
Love a carvery.
At 4:00 in the afternoon. It's like nothing I've ever known before.
This is why Tom Hall fits in so well with our family, because he's exactly the same.
Great stuff. Thank you both for chatting. I've had a lovely time. I hope you've appreciated hearing some different voices this week. But George and Rob, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to George and to Rob and to Rach and Alice, to Russ as well. Thank you so much for sharing in this very special episode of the SwanBank podcast. Normal service will be resumed next week. Catherine will be back unless Rachel has usurped her. And I was going to say we'll talk about some sensible and wise things, but we all know that's not actually going to be the case. So we'll be back to normal next week to keep up to date with all that's going on in the life of our church, week to week, day to day. Check us out on Facebook or on Instagram, or visit our website, swanbank.org.uk. Other than that, we'll see you next Friday for another episode of the SwanBank podcast. Have a great week. God bless you. See you very soon.